All right, guys. It's going to be a special video. And this video is because everybody has Star Wars on their mind. But I have to tell you first that I'm not seeing this latest Disney trilogy, this movie or whatever. I saw the first two. I even have a video of me seeing the first one called Force Awakens and then the second called Last Jedi. But after seeing The Last Jedi, I was totally turned off and no longer considered them canon or part of the original Star Wars that George Lucas had created. So anyways, but I have seen the leaks, and that's what I want to talk about today. But before I talk about that, if you are new to what my new channels is all about, it's basically about the ketogenic diet. So, and also Stoic philosophy combined with Jedi philosophy, and it's called Spiderbitevenom.com. I have a website called Spiderbitevenom.com. But anyways, I have my 2 pasture-raised eggs with a ribeye steak. Just came from the gym, so I'm going to start a 48-hour fast, or maybe even a 72-hour after this. And also I have an avocado salad with some oysters. And then my Spiderbitevenom cocoa, which is a little stevia without the maltodextrin, some vanilla extract and cinnamon, and some heavy cream. And then also I have my Spiderbitevenom cold drink, which is sparkling carbonated water with lime juice and a little apple cider vinegar. So the reason why I want to talk about this, and the reason why I don't consider Star Wars under Disney canon, is because George Lucas had been betrayed, or was betrayed, when he sold the rights to Star Wars, one of the biggest iconic movies of all time and a modern day mythology that no other movie franchise has been able to replicate, touch, or even come close to having such an iconic storyline and basically characters and lessons to learn and all that sort of stuff. So anyways, but supposedly in this latest movie, Leia is supposed to be a Jedi, or I guess she trained as one or something like that. I don't know. This is one reason why I don't consider it canon. And this is the perfect reason why you cannot take a movie like Star Wars and use it for propaganda and identity politics and stuff like that. It just doesn't work. You know, the whole point of Star Wars, the way George Lucas had envisioned it, was to tell a story so that us human beings can understand that there's choices we have to make. We can't be everything. You know, Leia, she was, in the original movies, force sensitive, but at the same time, she was leader of the rebellion. And she fell in love with Han Solo. So there will be no way within her lifetime she would train herself to become a Jedi. I mean, Yoda told Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back that there was another one in case he was killed or succumbed to the dark side. But so other than that, it was never meant for Leia to train as a Jedi. And her Force sensitivity was always just hinted at, like the time when Luke Skywalker had fell down the shaft in Empire Strikes Back, and Lando and Leia was fleeing the Cloud City, and then because she was Force sensitive, she was able to sense that Luke, her soon known to be twin brother, was actually need to be rescued. So stuff like that did not require years of Jedi training. But it just goes to show you why you can't take a movie like Star Wars, try to promote this feminist agenda where women can do everything. The Force Awakens, I could barely tolerate it because, and I was excited to see it, but I could barely tolerate it because it's like they took New Hope and gender swapped every character that you recognize personality-wise in the originals. And it was just so obvious what they were trying to do. And then you find out later, in the second movie, The Last Jedi, where they took Luke's character and just completely turned it into garbage, when he's the most cinematic, iconic hero of all time. And just basically turned him into a coward and a bum and a loser. I mean, you can't do stuff like that in order to push some kind of political agenda. It just doesn't, that's not how mythology works. But supposedly in this movie, they kind of make an apology for doing that, or try to retcon some of that stuff. But it's really too little too late. And they still don't get the point. They still don't get that you cannot do everything. You're only human. And as powerful as the Jedi were, they still couldn't do everything. They weren't all powerful. That was the point of the movie. Even Darth Sidious. In order for Darth Sidious or Palpatine to become Emperor, he needed the help of the Senate. He needed the Republic for the political power. And he needed the most powerful Jedi, the chosen one, to hunt down and kill the Jedi Order. So even he couldn't do everything. And supposedly this new movie, he's survived the explosion of the Death Star and Darth Vader killing him, throwing him down the shaft and Return of the Jedi. This is why it's not canon. Stuff is insulting and it's offensive. You cannot rewrite history. And, this is what happens. To me, the story is bigger. The bigger story is not about this latest movie that came out. For me, the story is about why this whole Disney trilogy failed. Because that in and of itself teaches a lesson. You know, I'm sure even George Lucas, as wise as he is, because he's the one that created this mythology, this modern day myth, I'm sure he learned some lessons. And well, basically the lesson is this, that you cannot be everything. No matter how you try, you cannot please everyone. And it doesn't matter how much adulation you've had in the past. Someone will take advantage of that fame and fortune and try to use it against you for their own selfish reasons and their own self-aggrandizement and glory and so forth. So that's really the bigger story. You know, if you were to ask me, because every character in the Star Wars movie told that story. Which is why everybody can relate to some degree each character in those movies. But nobody can relate to somebody who's all powerful, somebody who doesn't need training, someone who can do it all by themselves. Nobody can respect that or relate to it. And you know, George Lucas, he got some backlash from the prequels because he was trying to take risks with the CGI technology and digital technology and so forth. That was still in its developing phase. And he felt, in my opinion, felt like he needed Disney's help, financial help, to continue his legacy. But, you know, I'm sure the lesson he's learned from this whole thing is that everything has a price. You know, at some point you're going to sell out your soul. And, you know, at some point, you know, you're going to realize that while you may not be the chosen one, you may be the one who trains the chosen one. While you may not be the one who trains the chosen one, you may be the one who guides the chosen one. While you may be the one that has more power than anybody else, you realize that you need everybody else more than people with a fraction of your power. This is the beauty of Star Wars, and this is why the real story of Star Wars is the tragedy of the Disney trilogy. It's tragic. You know, I have never, ever missed a Star Wars movie. I've seen all the originals, all the prequels, at least 4 or 5 times. Hundreds of times on DVD, VHS, on television. I used to have trilogy parties. I mean, Star Wars is more than just a movie. It's a family event. It's a culture. I remember the first time I saw New Hope. I was a kid. I was 7 years old. I remember as if it was yesterday. Inspired me for the decisions I made in life. It inspired the world. No other movie has ever done that. And the tragedy of this whole thing is to watch a corporation take something that's so innocent, precious, and beloved, so pure, and out of its own greed, try to attract a newer audience, a different audience, an audience that don't believe in traditional family values and that sort of thing, only to alienate the majority of people who do have traditional family values, have normal common sense and how the world works and how to go about their daily life, and are not passionate about trying to fundamentally transform the globe and become all powerful. For me, this is the bigger lesson. This is a tragedy. It's like when in the scene in Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine was trying to seduce Anakin into coming over to the dark side by telling him a story, and the story was called "The Tragedy of Darth Plagueis' Wives." And you can ask any Star Wars fan; they'll tell you that's probably one of their favorite scenes in the movie. And it's not even there's no lightsabers happening. There's nothing flashy happening at all. It's just two men, basically a father figure and a son, talking about good versus evil, and how it depends on your point of view. And it's so profound the way Palpatine tells that story to Anakin, that you can write this is the germination of the whole movie, of the whole saga. Like, you can write an unlimited number of movies based on that one story. Because that story really tells you the secret of life. It's like the knowledge of good and the tree of knowledge of good and bad, in the Garden of Eden. It's like it explains everything. Explains why you're angry. Explains why most people are angry. Explains why people in politics do things out of hatred. It explains why hatred comes from passion, and passion comes from fear of loss and attachment. And you see it. And it doesn't matter if you're a good person or not. To someone else, we could be bad simply because we stand in the way of what they want, which is greed. And you have to train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. Like Yoda told Anakin, because the other scene, just as powerful, of the opera scene with Anakin and Palpatine, is the one with Yoda and Anakin. Anakin basically, Yoda's trying to tell him the exact opposite. But on the surface, it doesn't look that way. Because you really have to think about what he's saying. He's saying that, yeah, you do want to, do the best you can to save the ones you love and that sort of thing. But at the same time, you cannot be so attached to where you're afraid and then you do stupid things to try to avoid what could potentially be fatal and harmful and that sort of thing. And you just have to accept whatever life gives you. Whereas the story of Darth Plagueis, the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise is, don't accept whatever life gives you. Give in to your passion. Try to control people. And if you can't control them, kill them. Because you can justify it by saying it was good to kill that person. I'm doing this to save the ones I love, to protect the ones that I care for. And this is the dilemma of life. And when you really watch Star Wars and you watch these movies over and over again, you learn something new every time. You really get a deeper understanding of why things are the way they are. You really do. You almost have, they call it insight. You can, and if you go to the dark side, you have predictability, which is kind of similar to insight. It's kind of weird when you think about it. The problem with predictability is it's fear-based. So you're afraid that something bad's going to happen. More likely it will. Whereas insight is, I can see this person making mistakes and he's succumbed to his anger and his passion and his hatred for what stands in his way. And it's just a matter of time before this and that happens to him. So it's never a surprise. Whereas you can look at another person and see, okay, he's not afraid of losing things. He's doing the right thing. But at the same time, a lot of death and destruction is going to happen around him. And all he can focus on is defending himself, which to someone else may look passive, which is not good. So I know why Disney did the things what they did. I don't really blame anybody personally why they did the stuff that they did. the choices that they make, because everybody makes mistakes for the exact same reasons. They think they're doing the right thing. Kathleen Kennedy, in my opinion, should have never been in charge of Lucasfilm, but because Steven Spielberg recommended her to George Lucas, because them two are like the best of friends. George Lucas trusted her to stay true to the overall mythology. But again, at that moment, George Lucas forgot that Kathleen Kennedy is a social justice warrior who has her own agenda. And what bigger platform could she have to spread her message of feminism and all this other crazy nonsense than to take over Star Wars? In her mind, she's thinking she's doing the right thing. To her, according to her point of view, she's doing the right thing. J.J. Abrams, I thought he did a good job for the first Star Trek movie. But, he's just a director. And his boss is Kathleen Kennedy. So even if J.J. Abrams wanted to do what George Lucas had originally had in mind, he couldn't do it. It's the same thing like Obi-Wan. He initially didn't. He told Qui-Gon, I don't want to train the boy. The boy is scary. He's got a lot of fear. But then when Qui-Gon died, because Darth Maul killed him, in his dying breath, he told Obi-Wan to train the boy. And Obi-Wan felt obligated to do so because he was trained by Qui-Gon. And Qui-Gon was his master, and they had a very close relationship. So Obi-Wan, being the tutor himself, felt, according to his point of view, he had to train Anakin. Everybody has a point of view, so you can't really blame people. This is the whole thing about Stoic philosophy, which is why I love it, is because these philosophers will tell you that people don't make mistakes on purpose. They think they're doing the right thing, even though to someone else it looks horrible. You can go as far as Yoda. Here's Yoda. He's got all the knowledge and all the wisdom of the Force, and yet he thinks it's his duty to protect the Republic by participating in this plot to overthrow Palpatine. And you think about it, in any other scenario, any other situation, that would have been the right call. But ultimately it wasn't. And you can get no more knowledgeable or powerful than Master Yoda. This is the beauty of Star Wars. You cannot underestimate how powerful this movie franchise is. This mythology. Forget the franchise part of it. The mythology of the story. It basically, because it was based on Joseph Campbell's teachings of how mythologies work and how they, throughout history, were used to teach lessons to us as human beings, how to deal with life, how to have certain philosophies that made sense. That's what separates Star Wars from, under George Lucas, not this Disney nonsense. That's what separates Star Wars from any other movie franchise that's ever existed. Everything else is basically cheeseball popcorn nonsense. This Marvel superhero nonsense, it might be entertaining, but it doesn't teach you anything. If it does, it's very little, because everybody's a superhero. Everybody's all powerful. They may have one or two weaknesses, but there's really nothing to learn from these people. There's no really hard decisions they have to make. There's no moral dilemma. There's the Star Wars is on a level of its own. There's nothing ever like it. There's a reason why people can verbatim repeat every word, including characters like Jar Jar Binks. Every word from Phantom Menace all the way up to Return of the Jedi. There's a reason. Because people meditate and ponder over every word that George Lucas wrote in these movies. It's a fact. Because George Lucas was basing every story, every word in his stories on what Joseph Campbell taught him about mythology. And, and if there's one other example of how Star Wars has nothing to do with clever dialogue and, flashy action sequences and powerful spaceships and Death Stars and all that. Even though it has some of that, it's not about that. It never was about that. It's about the story. It's about the lessons you learn to apply in your own life. That's what Star Wars is about. That's why George Lucas, he purposely made the main actors practically nobodies. And then the ones that had more reputation and more name recognition behind themselves, like, Academy Award-winning actors and stuff, he made them supporting actors. Why? Because he did not want you to distract yourself from the story. I don't care if an amateur. Basically, he was an amateur. I think Mark Hamill was maybe done one or two TV commercials before he did play Luke Skywalker. But Luke Skywalker is the most iconic iconic hero in cinematic history. George Lucas, he was genius. He saw that. And he also saw that, this is why he was so hesitant, so reluctant. But again, he knew he needed help financially. He knew that if he sold it over to Disney, it was just basically Hollywood, who he despised for the very same reasons that I'm talking about. He knew that they were going to turn it all about what doesn't matter, which is, great acting, clever story, clever lines, trying to be cute and funny with the humor. All the silly stuff that's typical popcorn cheesy nonsense. And nobody cares. Nobody cares about that stuff. You go see a Marvel movie, you watch it, even if you saw it like 5 or 6 times, it doesn't even matter. You still watch it. The next day, you never think about it again. You might say, "Oh, that was kind of cool," special effects and that, the way that building over there blew up. I mean, who cares? Star Wars, you're walking away 10 years later, 20 years, 30 years later, 40 years later. I saw when I was 7 years old. That's 40 years ago, over 40 years ago. And I'm still thinking about how that story impacted my life. So, again, the bigger story is, it's not about how cute you are. It's got nothing to do with it. How much money you make, how powerful you are. It's about the decisions you make in life. The moral decisions you make. Is what I'm doing evil, selfish, greedy? Or is what I'm doing benevolent, helpful, selfless, compassionate? We have to ask ourselves every single day. We should thank movies like Star Wars under George Lucas for giving us that capability to even ask that question. I mean, next to the Bible, we really can only go to Star Wars and figure out, wow, that's the question I need to ask myself. And once you start, really all you gotta do is ask that question. Because your brain already knows the answer. And the answer could be, no, well, just do what you gotta do. And whether someone else thinks it's right or wrong, that's your answer. But at least it opens your eyes to see what are the possibilities and to the consequences of your decisions. Most people are ignorant. Most people are blind. Most people, because they don't ask these questions. Most people just do what their parents tell them to do, or which is, you should be doing that in the beginning of your life, but when you become an adult, you need to ask your own questions. When you go about your daily activities, when you set a goal in life, you really, here recently I realized you should only have one main goal in life. Figure that out and go for it. And you'll know whether or not the goal makes sense, because if you're unable to stick to it, or you get distracted, or you start doing stupid, crazy nonsense to try to make it happen, then that goal is not what you want to do. But if it's a goal that just presents challenges and obstacles, but you still stick with it, then that's the goal you need to do. And that's how you know. When it's like Yoda said, you'll know when you're at peace with yourself. When you do something and it hurts and it's painful, but yet while you're at peace, you still know that it's the right thing to do. I mean, even Emperor Palpatine, who is the ultimate evil of all evil, he's basically the devil. Even at some level, he thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks that there can only be two people who can run the galaxy, run the world, run the universe. He really believes that. He thinks that anything beyond that, it's just too chaotic. You know, there's always going to be somebody coming in out of nowhere trying to take over. So what he does is he believes in concentration of power, and on some levels he's got a point. Because look what the Jedi. I mean, they couldn't save Padme. They couldn't. Too afraid to give him the Anakin rank of master. You know, even though Anakin didn't qualify for it. Anakin was breaking the rules of the Jedi Order, and they suspected that. You know what I mean? You know, but Palpatine was like, "Nah, you know, this is why I don't want to do Order. I want to do everything because I think I'm just as wise as Darth Plagueis the wise, which is what the story of Darth Plagueis was. His tragedy. Everybody has a point of view, and you know, we just have to accept that." So, anyways, done with my meal. Probably gonna add some of this fat from my other half the steak that I made. So, if this is the first time you see me talk about the ketogenic diet, you can hear me talk about it more on the Spiderbite channel and also the Spiderbitevenom.com website. I'm going to post this video on that channel as well. But anyways, I hope I was somewhat coherent in what I was talking about, and I hope you come back to this channel. I mean, YouTube is doing some crazy stuff, so I'm really not happy with what they're doing. I mean, I can't even go into it, but I'm going to do what I can with this channel and you know, try to see what I can make of it. But my main channel I'm focusing on right now is Spiderbitevenom.com and the website. So check that out, and until next time, keep taking action.